Hello. My name is Nick Hearn, and I'm from the UK, London specifically. I first arrived in Myanmar in April 2013. I stayed for a couple of years. I was here for a work position. I work in the wine industry, and after 2 years we had some problems with importation. So we had to close our business and wait for the government to organise things, which they did, and then 3 years later I came back here. So I arrived back in September 2017. So I've actually been coming in between Myanmar and Vietnam since then. Vietnam was my host country before I came to Myanmar. Yeah, and I think one of the reasons that I came to Myanmar was because your wine industry here is very young and in its infancy. And with the opening of Myanmar, companies like ourselves see some opportunity here to develop the market. Well, I've travelled a lot in Asia, most of Indochina anyway, so I know Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand and Myanmar quite well. And I have to say that from all of those countries that I've visited, the people from Myanmar, I feel, have been the warmest and the most genuine, I think. So I think a lot of other foreigners and expats that come to Myanmar would say the same thing. It's very difficult to be negative because for me, there's lots of good things about Myanmar and the people. Okay, well there are lots of likes and not many dislikes really, to be honest. For me, one of the things that stands out about Myanmar as a country is how green it is. So in my experience, and I've been to most of the largest cities in Asia, Yangon is probably the greenest, and that's really nice. That's a really nice environment to be in. So when you go up to a higher floor in any building and you look in any direction, so many trees and greenery, which I love. Other cities like Saigon and Bangkok, it's very different. It's all concrete. So that's one thing for me. Also, it's not so high rise. You know, we're a pretty low rise city in terms of our height. Somebody told me that this was because we cannot build higher than the Shwedagon Pagoda. There's a building regulation which I found quite interesting. I like the ruralness of this country, so the countryside. The friendly people, they're very generous people, very genuine. I'm not really a big fan of Myanmar food, I have to say. I haven't really been very exploitative about food here. My wife is Vietnamese, so I'm kind of cultured to the Vietnamese food, and we both love to visit Thailand, so we love Thai food too. I have tried lots of different Myanmar foods, and there are some that I do like, but generally I don't really understand the food combinations here, not too well. But I've tasted some very good food in Myanmar also. In terms of, I tried toddy juice once, which is a fermented drink from a fruit on a tree when I was in the countryside one time. Toddy juice, that was quite interesting. But in terms of food and beverage, not really too brave about trying things. I don't really know Myanmar music or actors or TV. I don't have Myanmar TV feed into my apartment. It would be pointless for me because I don't speak the language. I said my wife's Vietnamese, so I'm trying to learn Vietnamese. That's difficult enough. And as an expat, you never know where you're going to be. Maybe for a short period, 2 years or something. So when I was here for 2 years in 2013, I could have put a lot of energy into learning Myanmar, and then I was gone back to Vietnam. But then now I find myself, I've come back, so I don't know. I can say a few things in Myanmar, hello, taxi directions and things like that, but I'm kind of more focused on trying to learn my wife's language. The things that I don't like about Myanmar, the traffic in Yangon. I don't like the traffic here. It's not as bad as places like Jakarta or Bangkok, but it can still take quite a long time to get around the town. I actually love the rain. We're in the middle of the rainy season. I love the rain. But I also love the sunshine here. We have a lot of sunshine, so that's good. I mean, Myanmar people as characters, as you say, I think they're very honest, very genuine people, very welcoming. So, you know, to be friends with local people is very easy. In terms of infrastructure, okay, it's a relatively underdeveloped country, but for me that's part of the attraction of being here. You know, I don't like order or too much order, you know. If you compare Yangon with other Asian cities like, for example, my experience, Saigon, Hanoi, Bangkok, everything is very kind of fast-paced, very busy, very intense. The infrastructure is quite solid. It's nice to come somewhere where it's not as modern and advanced, but maybe I'm the opposite of a lot of expats, because a lot of expats come here and say, wow, you know, how can you stay here so long? I live in Singapore, everything's shiny and new and works, and you know, I'm like, well, that's a bit boring, really. So I kind of like the I like the environment in Myanmar. I'm comfortable with it, but I'm a bit of an explorer, so I appreciate that. You know, I don't need to be in such a modern environment. I'm quite comfortable here. Look, I've met a lot of lovely people across Asia from many different countries, but I never really experienced as much generosity as I have experienced in Myanmar. You know, I've met people that really are extremely poor and almost have nothing, and they want to offer you food and beers or drinks or something. And the one thing that strikes me about Myanmar is that, you know, it is still quite a very poor country, but despite that, people seem to maintain a happiness that many other people perhaps in the same position wouldn't be able to do. And even if they've got only 2 apples to eat in one day, they would give you 1 apple. And that kind of generosity is pretty uncommon. So that's really one of my unique Myanmar experiences. If I try to think of a bad one, Myanmar is the only country where somebody has spat betel nut at me. I was sat in a taxi with a window open and someone spat betel nut out of the bus, and it came into the taxi and landed on my leg, fortunately on my leg. Yeah, okay, that's a thing that I don't particularly like about Myanmar, is this betel nut habit, but that's the way it is here, so I just get on with it. But I see a lot of signs now in Myanmar saying no betel nut. So I think people are, I mean, you know, if you've got a habit, if you smoke, fine. If you chew betel nut, fine. But does it have to be spat everywhere on the stairs? And that's really not very nice. But that's really the only bad thing I can think of here. Most of the experiences in Myanmar are very positive and very pleasurable. Okay, so if I was to rate Myanmar between 1 and 10, in terms of experience, I would give it a 9. There's only a few things which don't make it a 10. Power cuts are a little bit of an inconvenience, although that's getting better. So for me, it's a I can live with the traffic. It's not too bad, but I think all other experiences have been so positive. Legislation sometimes can get you down a little bit, you know, bureaucracy with government offices. But for me, 9. I've enjoyed all of my time here. I continue to do so, and I'm happy to stay here for as long as my mission needs to be completed. And to develop a wine business in this country, there's a 10 to 15 year timeline in front of me to do that, because I've seen the development of this industry in Vietnam, and we have a long way to go here in Myanmar. So, you know, we don't really feel that we're so much entrepreneurs here. We feel more as if we are pioneers. So that there was no wine industry. We've had to build it. You know, we've had to contribute to the legislation through retail associations. So there's many years of work for my business to do here. Whether I'm here for all of that time, I don't know. But for the moment, I'm very happy to stay and live in Myanmar. Mingalabar, my Myanmar friends. It's a pleasure to live and work in your country. I'm very happy here, and I wish everybody a successful and peaceful future in harmony together.